Welcome to the second episode of the Head to Head podcast. I am your host, Cam McKinney. In this podcast, I compare current athletes and tell you which one of these two athletes I think is the very best of the two. In this second episode of the podcast, this one's I've been thinking about for years. Bryce Harper versus Mike Trout. The two of the biggest names in baseball currently. Let's start looking at Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper has been in the league for 7 years now. 7 years Bryce Harper has been a Washington National. I remember seeing Bryce Harper's first career home run being called by Bob Costas in 2011. Since then, he has, for the most part, lived up to the hype. He is known for his hustle. Early on, he was known for crashing into walls and getting hurt. Now he is somewhat relaxed. He's definitely spoken his mind. Bryce Harper is probably the symbol of baseball currently. He talks about how the game should be more fun. He's very outspoken about those type of things. This season alone, he said that his teammates were like, he was playing with the minor league squad of the Washington Nationals due to all the injuries they were facing. So Bryce Harper is probably what baseball wants to be the face of it. He's a fun guy. He's hustle. He's Charlie Hustle. He's Pete Rose-esque. But let's talk about the numbers that back up Bryce Harper. His career is .282 batting average, which is well above the average major league player. He has 163 home runs in 7 years, so pretty decent. He's a pretty big power hitter. He's not Barry Bonds-esque. He's had a few seasons. He's led the National League in home runs before. He has through 162 games, he averages each year 32 home runs and 90 RBIs. The one thing about Bryce Harper, he has not had a 100 RBI season, and I know people don't love the old-time numbers, and they say it doesn't matter if you drive in 100 runs. It's about your WAR, and it's about all these numbers. 100 RBIs means something to me. You cannot be the best player in the game and not have a 100 RBI season. I think he's going to, obviously, but somewhere down the line, he's going to have to prove that he can be the ultimate driving in runs. I mean, scoring runs is important too, but he needs to drive in more runs in my estimation. What else has he got? He is a 5-time All-Star, pretty impressive. He has won NL MVP and Rookie of the Year. Very few people have done both in current history. You have Chris Bryant, who's done both. Ichiro did both in the same year. You have Albert Pujols, who's done both. The guy I'm going to talk about later has done both, Mike Trout. I mean, Bryce Harper is in a rare class. He is in this class of players who has done a lot of things before becoming the age of 30. Both of these guys that I'm talking about right now are not even 30 years old currently. That is bonkers. When you look at guys dominating in baseball, it's usually... When I started watching baseball in 2007, there were no Bryce Harpers and Mike Trouts. It was all a bunch of old guys like David Ortiz and Manny Ramirez and Derek Jeter and Alex Rodriguez. There weren't the up-and-coming talent. In baseball right now, and I would say across all sports, the sports are being dominated by these young, fresh faces. Like in baseball, you have Mike Trout. You have the Bryce Harpers that I'm talking about. The guys I'm not even talking about, like Chris Bryant. You have Anthony Rizzo, a bunch of young guys dominating the sport like never before. But Bryce Harper has been... I remember Bryce Harper when he was supposed to be a catching prospect. He was supposed to be a catcher. We all knew that wasn't going to be the case, and he eventually turned into the outfield. He's turned into a pretty good defensive outfielder also. Not the best. Again, like I said early on, he crashed through a bunch of walls in the outfield and kept getting hurt. I think what people love about Bryce Harper, if you're really a Bryce Harper fan, it's the hustle. He reminds people of Pete Rose with the hustle. When he walks, he runs to the base. I don't know, he's got that old school, like, it's all about the game or it's nothing. Bryce Harper is the face of the Washington Nationals. I mean, they had Strasburg. They had Scherzer. When you think of Washington Nationals, I think the only person that is universally known is Bryce Harper. And that says a lot because Max Scherzer has won 3 Cy Young Awards, and yet we still look at Bryce Harper as the face of the franchise. And there are big questions to come about Bryce Harper, free agency. Is he going to get the big $400 million contract that we've all been talking about for years now? Will Bryce Harper be the most paid player in the history of baseball? I don't think so. I do not believe that Bryce Harper is going to get $400 million. If I was going to say what kind of contract he was going to get, I would look at what Giancarlo Stanton got from the Marlins. Something in that range. A 10-year, $300 million contract. I don't think he's proven I can give him the insane contract. He's like a Robinson Cano type contract. Although, let's not get into that because Robinson Cano cheated. But still, Bryce Harper is going to be one of, if not the highest paid player in the game of baseball. Now let's take a look at a very different baseball player from the LA Angels. Mike Trout has been in the league for 8 years, and unlike Bryce Harper, he was not heralded as the savior of the game. Mike Trout basically came out of nowhere. He was not a first-round pick. He was drafted way, way, way later in the draft. But since coming into the league, he has proven he is a superstar in his own right. Maybe the biggest name in the game currently, with a .305 career batting average, 205 career home runs for 162 game averages. He averages 36 home runs and 100 RBIs, a .411 on base percentage, which is better than Bryce Harper himself. Most people feel like Bryce Harper's one big strength is that he gets on base. Mike Trout gets on base too. I remember Mike Trout early on was a speed demon. He has a 30-30 season. He is a 5-tool player. I think that is what probably separates the two by a minimum margin, is that Mike Trout himself is a huge game changer. He has all the skills. I think he's better defensively. I think Mike Trout has like this, I feel like this argument is really an East Coast, West Coast thingy. I think if you're from the East Coast or the Washington area, you're clearly a Bryce Harper fan. He's a no jokester guy. He takes baseball very seriously. Like I said before, Bryce Harper runs the bases like a maniac. Like every game is Game 7. Mike Trout, West Coast. Nobody stays up and watches these Angels games. This guy is a 2-time MVP. He finished second in the year that Miguel Cabrera had to have an historic Triple Crown season to dethrone Mike Trout as the best player in the game. I mean, that's what had to happen for Mike Trout not to win MVP. Someone had to have a Triple Crown season, which we haven't had since 1967. Yes. I mean, come on, people. We had to wait that long, and somebody had to do that for Mike Trout not to win the MVP. I really think that this is a stylistic argument. Watching Mike Trout play the game is vastly different than watching Bryce Harper play the game. Among others, Mike Trout is a 6-time All-Star. Like I said, 2-time AL MVP. He's led the league in RBIs. Bryce Harper has led the league in home runs. Mike Trout has had a 30-30 season. Bryce Harper, they're so different that I think that's why this argument is so weird. It's like comparing Magic and Bird. Bird was a scorer. Magic was the passer. Bird was the rebounder. Magic was Mr. Triple-Double. I mean, it's so vastly different. Bryce Harper is like, in this scenario, Bryce Harper is the Larry Bird. Well, he's not quiet. Well, yeah, Larry Bird was a trash talker. Bryce Harper seems like a trash talker. Mike Trout is all about the show, the entertainment value. I don't know. I think that comparison works beautifully. I think it's two vastly different games that the two are playing. They are the faces of baseball, and I don't think that baseball uses them properly. And truly, the one knock against both of them is the exact same knock. They've accomplished everything in the game so far except one thing: reach the postseason and have a run. Year after year, we talk about the Washington Nationals as the favorite. And now it seems like their run might be over as I speak it currently. And Mike Trout started off hot with the Angels. They won 100 games. They had Albert Pujols. They had Josh Hamilton. They had everyone. It was like they created a star-studded roster, and then they blew it. C.J. Wilson was bad. A bunch of guys went wrong. It seems like he was on a team that was like, okay, he's all we got, and then we have nothing else. Mike Trout has been the only good player on the Angels for years now. Now it seems like they're revitalized. They have Justin Upton. They have a bunch of veterans. We'll see how that goes. Bryce Harper, he's still on a good team. But the real comparison will be broken if one of these guys wins the World Series and they're the key cog to that. Because as I see it, I would say Mike Trout is better than Bryce Harper. But if Bryce Harper can win a ring and be the main reason his team does that, but Bryce Harper, for what I'm saying, how good he has been in the postseason numerous times now. There's no Bryce Harper postseason moment. There's no moment where he saves the Nationals from getting eliminated. There's no Game 7 moments. There's no Game 5 moments. What Bryce Harper moment in the postseason do you remember? The same thing for Mike Trout, although he's only been there once. There's no moment for these guys. You become all-time greats by moments. Joe DiMaggio has moments. Ted Williams had moments. Not in the postseason, but he batted like 400. You get what I'm saying? Great players have moments. Both of these players, I think, are going to be all-time greats, but they have to have some all-time great moments. David Ortiz has 2004 and 2013 and 2007, a whole 3 postseason runs of moments that you remember. These players lack moments. They have been on star-studded teams that were supposed to go far, and then they didn't. And they've also seen Bryce Harper is our manager number 4 in his career. That's not Bryce Harper's fault, but it's something to look at. And Mike Trout has the same manager, but they've had 0 success together. Both of these guys are lacking moments, overall moments that define careers. Stats are going to tell you that both of these players are already great, and awards are going to tell you that these players are already great. But the main reason I watch sports is for winners. Kobe Bryant is one of my favorite basketball players of all time, and I know he was a great scorer, but he had 5 rings. When it comes to baseball, Derek Jeter is one of my favorite players ever. He has 5 rings. Tom Brady has 5 Super Bowls. Mike Trout and Bryce Harper have done nothing when it comes to winning, and that's when we will decide who really is the best of the two. Right now, I think it is Mike Trout. He is a 5-tool player. He has proven year after year he is going to put up numbers. Bryce Harper has been injured again and again. And, he's had up and downs. He's had managerial changes. He has teams that we thought were foregone conclusions. He's had some of the best pitchers on his teams. And his offenses have still failed them to win postseason matchups. But what these two have in common is that they are the best in their leagues. Yeah, I think both of them are the face. In the American League, I say the best player is Mike Trout. In the National League, yeah, it's probably Bryce Harper, but you can go on a year-to-year basis. But Bryce Harper has become so interesting to watch because he's getting walked so much more. He's getting the Barry Bonds treatment. Mike Trout has never really gotten that treatment. I can't tell you why. But both players I find extremely fascinating on their own rights. I've told you the numbers. I've told you the awards. But there's something missing in both of them that's just so glaring. There's no game either. You're like, oh, remember that game Bryce Harper had or that game Mike Trout had? Mike Trout has hit for the cycle. I don't remember the cycles. Because those games happen in postseason time, and none of them have those games, those moments. Bryce Harper has never saved his team from being eliminated. He was the prohibited favorite for a 3-year window, and it's pretty much gone. It looks like it's changing. I don't know what's going to happen with Bryce Harper's impending free agency. I think he's clearly the biggest free agent out there. I mean, you can make the argument for Manny Machado. Mike Trout seems like he's going to be in LA for a while. I don't feel like they're close to contending for it all. It seems like the saddest thing about this debate, and it's one of the saddest things about sports, is that their windows of being this dominant are not going to last. We might have seen the best of both of them. Clearly, we don't want it to be that way, but this might be the very best that we've seen of Mike Trout and the very best we've seen of Bryce Harper. Yeah, I told you that they're both under the age of 30, but they've already done extremely well and done so much in 8 years and 7 years respectively. Are we going to see Mike Trout become better? How can he become better? I mean, yeah, he hasn't won a home run title, but that's about the only thing he hasn't done in the sport. And Bryce Harper, yeah, I told you he hasn't driven in 100 runs, but if he did that, I wouldn't all of a sudden go, yeah, he's a much better player. I mean, it just seems to me we've missed the window here. These teams have failed their players, and that's the sad thing. That it doesn't seem, I don't feel as if Bryce Harper is going to win a ring with the Washington Nationals, and Mike Trout is not going to win a World Series ring with the LA Angels as currently constructed. I find this argument fascinating, which one of these players is better. But the sad truth is they're probably so similar, it's sad. Their teams have failed them miserably. Mike Trout, some of those years are historic that Mike Trout has had. He should have made the postseason every year he's been in this league. I don't think it's that hard to build around him. And Bryce Harper has won an MVP. They failed in the postseason against the Braves and against the Giants. Yeah, they were against some historic runs, but come on. The sad thing about this comparison is that there's nothing that makes one or the other that much better, because you can only say prohibitively that Mike Trout would be that much better than Bryce Harper if he had won the big one, the World Series. That is why we play sports. And another thing that's unfair about the two is that we're going to blame Mike Trout for not winning, and we're going to blame Bryce Harper for not winning. But their teams have failed them. Bryce Harper had Dusty Baker ruin the bullpen last year, costing him probably a chance to make to the next round. And Mike Trout wasn't even in the playoffs. Now he has a better supporting cast, but it's not enough. And Mike Trout is going to have a down year soon. It's just the math is going to average out. He's going to have a not-so-so Mike Trout type year. He's finished second in the MVP 5 years in a row. Bryce Harper is going to start to slide down. Yeah, he might get some big 10-year contract, but what big 10-year contract has really worked out? None of them. Bryce Harper is never going to be consistently the same Bryce Harper for the next 10 years. That I can tell you right now. It is the sad thing in sports. Have we already seen the best of these two? I think we have. I truly think that you've seen the best of Bryce Harper and Mike Trout. When it comes to this podcast and head-to-head, I am definitely choosing Mike Trout over Bryce Harper. I have seen way more of Mike Trout become better of a player. I feel like Bryce Harper has not improved since winning that MVP. Mike Trout, it seems like he's still trying to change his game. It looks like he's trying to become more of the speedster that he used to be. Currently, as we're speaking, he has 9 stolen bases in 40 games. Listen, Mike Trout still has that 30-30 potential. Defensively, I think Mike Trout's a better player. On base percentage, which most people think it's Bryce Harper is way better than Mike Trout. He's not. Mike Trout has a better career on base percentage if you're into that kind of nerdy number. But again, the comparison of these two players is so fascinating because they're so similar and yet they're so different. They're so different in their plate approaches. They're so different in their styles. Bryce Harper is dirty and he's got the mud. He's doing the sliding. Mike Trout looks smooth. It makes the game look easy. I think that's where the real fascinating debate comes about, is which style of baseball you like watching more. I think my dad likes watching Bryce Harper play more because he's used to the 70 styles of baseball where every game means so much and every walk and every run the bases hard. And Bryce Harper is like the Pete Rose that we don't have anymore. And then you have Mike Trout, the smooth guy, who's just so good. And because baseball writers are proclaiming Mike Trout is so great. I think sometimes people look at that and go, oh, we try to find the fault of why he's so great. We try to come up with a reason why Mike Trout's not the best player instead of just watching him for ourselves. I think that's happened with LeBron in basketball, where we said, oh, LeBron's the very best. I want to find a reason why he's not the very best. Mike Trout might win 7 MVP. He might break Barry Bonds' 7 MVP streak. Bryce Harper, I think Bryce Harper is done winning MVPs. I think that is the one MVP Bryce Harper will have, because I think Bryce Harper's peaked. I really believe Bryce Harper has peaked as a baseball player. The batting average continues to dip. Right now, as we're speaking, he's at like a 250 batting average on the season. It's still very early into the baseball season. I see Mike Trout trying to evolve, become a base stealer again, Mike Trout is rare. I think Mike Trout is more rare of a baseball player than Bryce Harper is. I've seen guys be Bryce Harper before. We've seen guys do that. We have not seen Mike Trout. I know the world of baseball has not seen a guy like Mike Trout. He's got on base. He's got power. He's got speed. He's got defense. He looks like a monster the way he's built. He's bigger. He's stronger. He's faster. He is better than Bryce Harper. So in this edition of Head to Head, I'm giving it to Mike Trout. And like I said, we've probably seen the best of Mike Trout, but just the fact that there's an evolution to his game that's also fascinating. People are still pitching to him, which I find insane. Because I would rather pitch to Albert Pujols and Justin Upton and Andrelton Simmons and a bunch of guys on the Angels than I would Mike Trout, who's won 2 MVPs and has finished second 3 times. That's 5 years in a row that baseball has had to say this guy is the best or the second best player. Bryce Harper, there are years where you forget Bryce Harper is in the National League contention. He's not always in the contention. Mike Trout is way more consistently brilliant than Bryce Harper is. And I can make the case for Bryce Harper no longer being the best player on his own team. Max Scherzer, the pitcher, might be more valuable to the Nationals than Bryce Harper is currently. I mean, that says a lot. I'm a huge Bryce Harper fan. I think he's a bit overrated, though, by some. I do. I think he's a bit overrated by the media because he talks and because he's interesting. I think we try to make interesting better than what it is sometimes. I think we see someone who's interesting and we go, oh, we got to make that guy the star. He shouldn't be the star just because he's interesting. He hasn't put up the numbers that Mike Trout has. Like I said, he's definitely a top 5 player in the National League, if not the best. I can make the argument, but Mike Trout, I don't have to argue about it. I know he is prohibitively the best player in the American League. There is no debate. The last 5 years, Mike Trout is the best player in the American League. No debate. Year by year, you could say right now, Mookie Betts might be currently, but there's no debate. The last 5 years, it's been Mike Trout. It is a Mike Trout world we are living in the game of baseball. He is the best player in the game. So again, Mike Trout wins this edition of the Head to Head Podcast. If you like this episode of the Head to Head Podcast, I'm Cam McKinney, and there will be more weekly episodes of the podcast on iTunes. So remember to review, subscribe, rate, download, do all those things. Again, I'm Cam McKinney. If you like this episode of the Head to Head Podcast, remember to go to iTunes, review, download, and subscribe to the podcast. Tune in for more. Thanks for listening to Head with Cam McKinney.